Alrighty. Thank God that started then. I thought what was going on. It took about a minute and a half for it to kick in, but looks like it's all up and running now. So thank you for those who've joined me. Can see you all in the chat room there. Hopefully you can hear me and you can see the countdown. So do the usual. Those of you who know the score, just drop us a quick comment so I know you can hear and see things. And then I won't be so stressed because that did take a long time to kick in then. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for letting me know. It's all kicking off tonight. I think I just paused the countdown then. What's going on? Blimey. It can only get better from now on. But again, thank you so much for joining me. I think I'm going to blame it on the jet lag. That's what I'm going to blame it on. Alrighty, hopefully you can see me and hopefully you can hear me. Blimey, I've only had a couple of weeks off and I feel a little bit rusty. And then when I went to set to go live, it took about a minute and a half. And I was like, what's going on? What's going on? But thankfully, we are live. Things are sort of working or seem to be working. And I'm going to keep the keyboard away from my arm because halfway through that, my arm went onto the space bar and it paused the countdown. like I said, it can only get better from now on. But listen, thank you for those of you who've been joining me week in, week out. And thanks to those of you who've returned today, now that I've returned back after my working holiday. Oh, no, I did that thing, that working holiday, as Stuart said there. But listen, I just wanted to say, there's a guy I noticed here. There's a comment, before we get into this, there's a comment here from this guy here, Michael Bookman. He's in the chat. And I don't think Michael's been on one of these lives before, but those of you who are regular viewers, you might remember a while back I was talking, I forget who I was talking to, but I mentioned about there being a bit of a comparison between how I do portraits and when I first started doing the landscapes and the seascapes, and how it had to be like a mental shift for me to kind of treat the seascapes and the landscapes like I do the portraits, in that when I go there, just relax, get to know the place and just take your time and eventually get a shot. Now, there was somebody who commented about that and compared the two. It was Michael Bookman. And Michael, I've mentioned you so many times in so many talks, but thank you for that. It felt a bit heavy at first when you said it, but after I thought about it, I thought, he's right. That Michael Bookman, he's right, he is. But listen, thank you for joining me. We've got a really good one this evening. My friend Roderique from the Netherlands. My God, you wait till you see his promo that I put together. This was probably, I know I said last time when it was Imelda's promo, that was a difficult one to get the music right for different reasons. But this was a difficult one to get the music right, because when you see his portfolio, you're going to see it is so varied. There's some dark stuff. There's some traditional portrait stuff. It's beautiful stuff, but it's so varied. But you still know it's his. He's got a very distinct style. Right, before we bring him in, let me just go through some admin, because as you know, I've been away for a little while. This past week, I was in San Francisco. I was invited out to the Adobe headquarters out there with a group of other people. You can see them here. There was 25 of us from all over the world who were invited to the headquarters at Adobe, and they called it the Photography Community Summit. And basically, there were people like myself, there was Scott Kelby, Katrine Eisman, Matt Kloskowski, Pratik Naik. There was loads of people there, and we were brought in basically to spend a couple of days speaking very freely and openly with the Lightroom team, discussing what's in Lightroom at the moment, where we want to see it going, and issues and things like that. So it was really interesting to be able to speak so openly with them, and not once when we made suggestions about certain things were we met with any resistance. So that was really encouraging. I mean, it was great to get behind the scenes. And great to spend some quality time with some incredible creative people. So thankfully, we all got on really, really well, and so many of them have agreed to be on the live. So over the coming weeks, you're going to get to meet some incredible people from all over the place, literally all over the place. So I'm looking forward to bringing them in. So that was one thing to let you know about. The other thing to let you know was, if I just dive over to my screen, this past week, while I was away, we had the Photoshop Virtual Summit 6. And I've got to say, I am blown away. Look at this scrolling here. Blown away by comments that were placed on classes that I've done. This was one of the classes that I did all about making selections and cutouts in Photoshop, and how we can use old techniques with the new technology as well. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. There's some amazing comments in there. So clearly this summit was very, very well received. So that's just really nice to sort of know that when you do put something together, and although people can watch it for free, there are the VIP tickets that were available. It's a really good feeling to know that people are getting something that they're really, really happy with, rather than just churning out something and just hoping it does well. When you get that kind of feedback, it's a really, really good feeling. So that was that. The other thing to let you know about, keep an eye out this week, because those of you who maybe do a little bit of content creation, maybe, I hate that phrase, but you know what I mean? You go out and you make videos and you like posting on socials. Rode they haven't released it yet, but there's a new microphone set that's just coming out soon, and it's absolutely tiny. Can you see that there? It's called the Rode Micro, wireless micro. It's absolutely tiny, but this is available for pre-order at the moment. This is the whole package just there: two transmitters and one receiver, and they're designed to be used with your mobile phone. And I was out today testing them. They are really good. I got to say, very, very good. It's very impressed. There's only one thing I'm not going to say was a negative, but it's a bit of a kind of a criticism, which I hope they change in version 2.0. Nothing to do with the microphones, but what you get with the microphone. So keep an eye out on that. I'll be posting that video maybe Wednesday on this channel, recorded video on this channel. Anything else? Oh yeah, the other thing, importantly, if you haven't yet, click on subscribe, which should say follow. Helps out massive. It really does. So I'd really appreciate that. Right, that's enough of the admin. This is going to fly by. I know this is going to fly by, but let me bring my my friend Roderique in. I want to know why he's got this Dracorubio. I don't even know if I've pronounced that correct. I want to know what that's all about. But before I bring him in, let me play his promo. He sent over roughly 30-ish images. And like I say, it was hard to choose the right music. I hope I have. I'm going to keep an eye on him. I can see him on the little screen to my right here. But I'll play this, then we'll get him in. Because I want to know how, why, and all that kind of stuff of what he does, But this is the slideshow I've created for my friend Roderique. I did it again. Dracorubio. Is that cool stuff or what? But you see what I mean about it being so incredibly varied, but you still know there's like a synergy between them, all those images. You know that he's done them, even though they're all different. But listen, let me unmute him, make sure that comes off over there. Fingers crossed, let's press it. Roderique, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can.
Right.
Listen, before you say anything, this is the message to everybody out there watching. This look is not a prerequisite for being on the live, all right? It just so happens, you know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying? Listen, Roderique, listen, before we kind of get into this, look at some of the comments that have come in already. I mean, unsurprisingly, Lee Churchill, oh, wow. My friend Steve Healy, love it. Nigel, awesome stuff. It goes on and on and on. And somebody, I think you know, Renee has put, I wish I was half as talented as Roderick. But it goes on and on and on.
You are amazing.
My friend Ian Monroe, he's put, that portfolio is the definition for being spoiled for choice. Insanely talented, my friend. There you go. Okay. So, yeah, wonderful, wonderful stuff. There you go. Mate, thank you so much for joining us, allowing us to sort of have some of your time. Thank you so much for that. There's so many questions that I've got for you, and I've got a feeling that there's going to be some that I didn't plan that are going to come from this. But
definitely.
Ordinarily, what I get people to do with these, first of all, mate, is just to sort of give us a brief kind of potted history as to what got them doing what they're doing today. So I'm going to ask you the same kind of thing. What got you, Dracorubio, which I've got to ask you about afterwards, what got you doing what you're doing today? What's the story that got you to where you are now?
Oh my gosh. I've got 48 years of creating behind me, so that's a long story. I've always been creating, drawing, making stuff, and I don't know, all kinds of things. But things really took off when I started photography. Mainly because I didn't know how it worked, and I just figured things out. And it was the synergy of technology, getting to learn new technologies and creating images with them, which really clicked with me at that time, which was, well, I think maybe 2010-ish, I think.
Right.
That's when I picked up a
So,
camera. Sorry.
was it ever on the radar? I mean, like, let's say, like, when you go through your education, you go through school and maybe college or university, whatever it is that you did. But what was it always something that you wanted to do? Was it something that you maybe did alongside a completely different full-time job and then moved into, or what? How did it all come about?
Well, I studied at the Arts Academy and I studied 3D animation and visual effects because I always
Okay.
wanted to make the next Star Wars. That was my thing. Growing up with the original Star Wars and Star Treks and Doctor Who's and everything, fantasy was always and sci-fi was always a big plus in my life. So I
Uh-huh.
wanted to be in that industry. I wanted to make it, but you quickly figure out you can't do it by yourself. You don't have like the hardware to do it, and that put me off a little bit. But yeah, I studied that, being a creative. I worked a few years in motion graphics and 3D animation in different various jobs. So Photoshop and, well, mostly Photoshop was usually just a side program which I used to like do textures and do backgrounds and
Yeah,
do
yeah.
different stuff. I mainly worked in 3D, and I had no clue about how cameras worked. I had no clue about frame sizing and stuff. It was all just digital, and I was living and working on, in a small dark room, and that was it.
Hmm.
That was my world. I created worlds from my head without having any reference. So imagine when I picked up a camera and started looking through a lens and started learning what aperture was and bokeh was and what a sensor size was and all that stuff. It was like, oh, that's what those buttons were in my 3D programs.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah,
But yeah, it clicked because also, like we're talking 12 years ago, 10 years ago, computers were really slow. And try
yeah.
doing
Hmm.
like 3D animation and 3D stuff on a slow computer.
Hmm.
Nowadays, you can do it on your computer, on your laptop or your iPad or whatever. So we've come a long way. So basically, what I was trying to create took me a long time.
Hmm.
But getting the camera and getting the pictures from my card into my computer, and then having this empty canvas of a picture to
Yeah.
start with, that quickly was really, really eye opening. And I could really just churn out a lot of images in a small amount of time.
So,
So
so
that,
you are 100% self-taught. Is that what you're saying? Apart from maybe going on some courses and stuff, but it wasn't something that you went to official training for to
you know,
learn the photography side of things, but the editing side of things, the retouching side of things, that was something that you were more familiar with, right?
well, I knew what Photoshop was and I knew what layers were. So I could, and
That's
I
all you
used to
need
work.
to know.
That's all you need to know. And I had a lot of experience in After Effects, which
Right.
we always called that Photoshop on wheels because it was animation, but basically it was Photoshop. You have
Yeah.
layers and you have keyframes and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't really strange to me, and I'm a really computer nerd, you can say. So I love buttons and I love the way things work,
Yeah.
and figure things out. So it's wasn't really hard to go over to Photoshop and say, okay, how does this work? And then YouTube came along, and you can learn a lot of stuff online nowadays. So
Hmm.
I just sucked everything in, everything I needed
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
everything I wanted to know. But
Cool.
photography mainly, I learned everything from photography from mostly from Flickr and the
Wow.
people I met there.
Glass going back, isn't it? Flickr. Is it
Yeah,
still around, Flickr? I don't even know.
it
I've not
still is.
even.
I still have it. I'm still a pro
Right.
member. I still love it because the community there was really photography focused, and I was doing. I think I did 365 projects where I made a self portrait every day for
Right.
3 years. Because that's the only way you can learn something by doing it and doing it and doing it.
Yeah.
But you meet a lot of people and you can talk about stuff like, I want to buy a new camera. What should I buy? And people react and you get information and you distill your new camera from it. Also on Flickr, every picture you see there that has the EXIF data written right down below, so you can find
Yeah.
out what lens they used, what aperture they used, what ISO settings they use. So there's a lot of information you can learn from there. And if you don't know what it is, you figure it out. What is
So
bokeh?
so when you first started out, is it bokeh or bokeh? Hey,
I have
there
no
you
idea.
go.
I only
When you first kind of started out, then you've got the camera in your hand. Were you somebody that kind of like me, kind of like just literally tried your hand at everything? You know, you kind of did the landscape, the portraits, the family photos, the weddings. You tried absolutely everything. Is that the kind of route that you went, or did you kind of always just go out and photograph stuff for yourself? You never really got kind of into doing other things.
No, because like I said, I started with a 365 project. That's where
Yeah.
I learned photography. At that moment, I was at home with a burnout, so I didn't have much to do but be with myself at home.
Hmm.
So the self portraits really worked for me to get out of the burnout as well, but also to learn to tell a story. So I didn't go outside much. So I
Hmm.
just sat at home. I had to build my own sets. I had my attic with a small window, which was the only light I had.
Hmm.
So you learn to adapt to the situation you were in. Oh, and I had cats, so they're the best models you can have. I mean, learn about shutter
So
speed and stuff with moving objects like that. You're
yeah,
good to
yeah,
go.
yeah. Well, do you know, I think there's somebody in the actual who's watching this, Amanda Glasspool. She's like a pro cat photographer. That's what she does. She's
Oh,
got
wow.
her own kind of business, goes out and photographing people's cats. Which, wow, I mean that's. I mean,
Uh,
photographing your own cat's hard enough, let alone other people's. My God.
mhm.
But all right, so one thing I've got written down here, which I desperately want to find out about, is this name, Dracorubio. Am I even saying that correctly? Dracorubio. Why do I think of horror and stuff like that? Or was that the intention of it? Where does Dracorubio come from? Which is obviously your web address as well, dracorubio.com. Where does it come from?
It comes from trying to be a blogger, actually. The
Right.
internet came up, so everything came and everything was new and everybody tried everything. So I thought, oh, well, I should be a blogger. Everyone is doing a blog. So I started using the name Red Dragon, which was in the same time that Red Dragon, the movie, came out. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
sequel to Silence of the Lambs,
Yeah.
or prequel. So everybody, if you looked for Red Dragon, you'd find that. The Red Dragon came from me being a dragon in Chinese zodiac, and I love dragons. I mean, come on, who doesn't? And the red comes from my first name, Roderick. In Dutch, rood, or Roderick is red. So that fits me. So I made that. But yeah, I didn't get any traffic. Maybe I should have written something, but I'm not a writer. Anyways, so I came to Flickr and I needed to make a new username. And I know my real name. I mean, it's Roderick Arisiaman, which is difficult to pronounce, let alone difficult to write out. I
Hmm.
didn't see any people like typing it out and having going to the right site or find me at all. So I thought, well, I need a different name, and I've got this red dragon, and maybe I should change it. So I made Draco, the dragon, and Rubio, ruby red. So that clicked,
Right. Okay.
and that became my username on Flickr, and
Okay.
everybody could find me on that. And then it became
I
my
was
username.
thinking it was like a horror thing because obviously some of the images are quite, you know, whoa. I mean, there's like a
Yeah,
Halloween ones that you sent over. That's what I thought it was to do with, but obviously not. So
yeah, it's an eclectic. It's a mysterious name, and it kind of stuck and kept me on. And now it's my business name. And if you Google it, you'll find me.
hmm yeah, I
And
don't think there's many other Dracorubios I'd have maybe
no,
come across, but
no. The only problem I
listen,
have is it's all written. I invented it like a written word, but pronunciation is I have no idea how to pronounce it either.
well, I'm glad you said your surname Ariasman. Is that how you said it?
Arisiaman.
Aris, yeah, okay. Roderick. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So listen, one thing I'm always fascinated with, and now that we've got that out of the way, because I was just curious about that.
Mhm.
One thing I'm always fascinated to find out about is people's style, where that comes from, and their ideas and inspiration and what have you. Now, when we look at your images, I'll just bring some of these kind of examples up here, as I have been doing while I've been talking. like I said to the, at the very, very start here before I played the promo, they are very, very varied. Do you know, there's all manner of kind of different things that you've got within your portfolio, as well as, client work, which I want to speak to you about very soon about this kind of work here, because I know this is a big deal, doing stuff for like TV series and what have you. So that's incredible. But one thing I wanted to ask you about then, when it comes to your style and the kind of things that you photograph, where does that come from? Because because I know where my ideas come from, but yours, because they are so varied, do you do a lot of reading of a certain style? Is there a certain kind of films that you like to watch that maybe inspire you? Where does this kind of, I don't know what the word would be, where does this different kind of look that you have and this want to do these kind of images, where does that come from?
I don't know. It's part of my brain, I guess. Like I said, I was born in, I was raised in the '80s, so I've seen a lot of movies like Star Wars and ET and the lots, a lot of animations like Transformers and Jason the Wheel Warriors, lots of anime. Those are basic inspirations, which I still keep doing. I still watch a lot of television, a lot of movies, a lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy. I don't really read that much, but that's the general genre of looking into a different world that doesn't exist. That's what I'm interested in showing people or showing myself how would something look that we don't see in everyday life. It's escapism, I think.
I was just going to say, do you find it as a way of escaping and just kind of going off into your own little world? Is that what you find it to be like?
Yeah, if I'm editing, I'm just telling myself stories. Oh, this little pixel goes there, and this is happening there, and it's always been around. I've as a child, I had this fairy tale book with illustrations in there, and I was just dissecting them. Like, how does this fit into the story I'm reading, and which part is what, and why is it built like that? And I think that's a big inspiration for me.
All right.
And I think also,
just got my friend Steve. Sorry, butting in here. My friend Steve Hilly, who I know worked in the Netherlands for quite some time, years ago. He's put that there. Netherlands. I'm not even begin to try to pronounce it. What does that mean? I'm guessing it means Netherlands is cool.
No, the Dutch are cool.
Oh, the Dutch are cool. Oh, well, there you go.
Which we are.
Steve, you're showing off. You're showing off. Sorry, mate. Go on. You were saying anyway.
No.
So you're not much of a reader then. So a lot of it comes from, like you say, the '80s and the kind of films that you like to watch, and maybe that's influencing the way that you want to go. But as I understand it, then it's not something that you consciously, watch a movie and get inspired from. It just kind of sits there in the head somehow and then comes out as you're working on your images. But where do you even get the idea? I mean, look at these images here. Look, where do you even start thinking about, producing this kind of stuff? What's the process, Roderique? Where do you, what comes first? Do you kind of like take a portrait and then just think, do you know what, I could do this to that? Or do you actually go from the get-go, you're going, I want to create a picture where we've got a woman dressed like this with no face missing, but then this kind of skull coming from the front. Where does that idea come from?
I don't know. It just happened.
I need more than that.
I am not a planning guy. I cannot plan at all. If I plan something, if I plan an idea or a shoot, I'll plan it to bits, to death, and I'll never make it because it becomes so big in my head to create it. I'll curl up and watch a movie or something. It's impossible. I get anxious to create it. So usually what I'll do, and I've got really good friends. I'm renting the studio with really good friends. And she's an amazing artist. She's a makeup artist and she makes dresses and she knows how to work with models. And she invites me over to come and shoot with her, with the models, because we both have different styles and we create different things from the same shoot. So that gives me the opportunity to just shoot randomly. Okay, we've got a beautiful light. We've got a beautiful woman. We've got beautiful model, everything's good, and I'll start from there, and I'll see what happens when I load it into my computer and start pushing around pixels.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this will fit there. Maybe this will fit there. Maybe I've got a new plugin I want to use, or maybe I've seen something somewhere there, and maybe I'll connect it with this. Everything just happens.
Listen, it's not in no way, shape, or form is this any kind of like a criticism. If anything, it's really interesting because it is I guess in a way, it's a complete different way to what I work. Because when I'm going to go and I'm not talking about going out to do the seascape stuff. That's just stuff that I do as extra. But when I'm going to go and do a portrait, it's almost planned down. All everything about it is just planned. And so when I go into retouching, I kind of know where I'm going to take it. Although I do like to play a little bit, especially now I've got, there's like a plugin, which we're going to talk about in a short while. Now I've got that because it's just experimentation. But I do like, there is a structure, in some way. But to hear that yours is very much, I guess, spontaneous is the way that it is. You'll do something and that'll then motivate you to do something else, and then try something else and try something else. And eventually you get to it. But when you do work like, all right, so here's a question then. When you do get to, when you are that kind of a person that works that way, where it is very kind of spontaneous, how do you know when you've finished?
When it's time to go to bed.
So you'll work on an image until it's finished. You won't sort of like say pause, come back to it the next day, or whatever. You literally will just kind of run with it and edit it until you think, right, yeah, that's done now.
Yeah, definitely. That's coming from the time when I was doing the self portraits every day, where I would take a picture during the day and in the evening at say 8 o'clock, I would start editing, and I needed to have it finished by 10 or something, because I needed to post it. I needed to write a picture, a text for it, and I needed to have time to wind down and go to bed. So it motivated me to keep it small, but be not really productive, but how do you say it? Well, kind of structured,
Right.
and that kind of stuck. So I'm quite fast in Photoshop, and the ideas just when they flow, they flow. I do not let like the idea hold me back. I'll just create and see what happens. And once I have like a direction, I'll follow it. And there are a few steps I always follow, which I always do, which I can show you in a few minutes. What else? And I just keep doing that, and eventually a picture finishes.
It kind of makes sense. I mean, that there makes me think of, and I'm not trying to get all arty-farty now, but it does make me think of like a traditional painting kind of artist. You know what I mean? Because whenever I have seen them, in fact, there's a series I'm watching on TV at the moment. There's a famous comedian in the UK who now has got like a program on television where him and his wife are traveling around different parts of the UK, and he's really into bird life, nature, and what have you. So he'll draw particular birds that he goes and spots and sees and what have you. But when he's drawing it, it is very, very kind of spontaneous. So he'll do a little bit there. Oh, I'll tell you what, I could maybe add this in here, maybe add this in there. So there is definitely a parallel between that traditional artist, if you like. And I don't mean to say that we're not, as photographers and researchers, we're not artists, but you know what I mean, traditional kind of artist. And what you're doing, there is definitely a parallel there with sort of stuff being spontaneous. And I've got to say, I think you're probably, out of all the people I've spoken to in this series so far, I don't think anybody else has said that they work that particular way. You know what I mean? That they are literally just spontaneous. I think maybe Renee will be sometimes, because when we see what the kind of work that Renee does, it can be very, incredible kind of stuff she does. And I can't for 1 minute believe that Renee would say, right, before I start, this is how I know it's going to look. I'm sure at some stage in the retouching, Renee will be kind of inspired and go, actually, I could do this. You know what I mean? So maybe that's another person that obviously I've spoken to that maybe sort of applies that way.
It also depends on how you build your team. I mean, if you hire a model, because of the way they look.
Yeah.
So there's already an idea behind that. I mean, I'll hire a person who looks a specific way because I see something in there, because I see a story. But the way that story develops, eventually, I have no idea. I have a certain direction, and I had that a lot with workshops I do. I get people who have this really narrow idea of I need to make this happen,
Hmm.
exactly this, and everything else is it needs to be like this. But and that's the most frustrating part because trying to get them out of that mindset is really difficult. So
So what
I'll
advice do you give them then in situations like that when you can see somebody who is maybe really narrowing down what they potentially could do? What kind of advice do you give them?
I would advise to like take the idea, write it down, draw it down, jot it down, but also do different things like make a color palette or uh, think approach it differently or write more about it or take one aspect of the project and do something with that and just mull it around in your head and in your hands to give it more air, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah. Do you know, as you're talking there, I'm looking through some of the comments here because people, you mentioned you're on Flickr and whatever, and look at this here straight away. Look, George Smith, your website is just a big wow, incredible. Um,
It needs
Mark
a
Hard Photography, I hope I've said that correctly. Loving this conversation, the style of the images too. And G Biker 69 has put, he's such a great guy, an incredible artist, photographer, and Photoshop wizard. His work is amazing. But you can see as we scroll down here, look, there's all sorts of Judy, regular viewer, lovely Judy. She's put, just checked
Mhm.
out his Flickr. Wow, such a diverse
Oh,
grouping,
thank
but
you.
all with the same feel. Love it. Now, there's a question here, which, yeah, I can see where Lee's going with this. But my friend Lee has put this question to you here. Do you get inspiration from artists, say, like Dali? Because there is a sort of feel for that. So, what would you say to that?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, simple.
I mean, I love going to the museum. I love going to see art live. I know
Hmm.
I had studied art history, so I know a lot of artworks from the pages. But if I get a chance to go to a museum and see an artwork live, I definitely would go.
Hmm.
Uh, because if it inspires me.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I saw an exhibition of Caravaggio, which was amazing. Just spending time with the paintings and looking at the light and stuff, just studying it. It's like wow. The way Dali works in his mind is like mind-boggling. Like, what did he see in his mind? I love
Hmm.
that. So many artists you can follow. Sculptors, I love sculptors. I love uh, comic book artists, especially illustrators. I
Hmm.
love illustrators mainly because I am terrible at drawing. I think, especially humans. Um, and I aspire to be a comic book artist, definitely, but I'm terrible at drawing, so I'll just do photographs. Um, so yeah, there's always something. I love Mothmeister. I don't know if you know them, but they make incredible pictures of masks and just plain weirdness. I guess, but you should check them out as well.
I
Yeah.
love this because so I think you know what you were saying earlier on there about when people come to a workshop and they have this narrow kind of field of view and they restrict what they're doing. I love that you don't. Do you know what I mean? My only kind of comparison to this is that I'm a portrait guy, but
Mhm.
pre-COVID or when COVID happened, it made me kind of branch out and do other things because I couldn't do portraits. That's kind of like the limit of me really pushing myself. But what you do, there is no limitations to what you do. It's whatever just comes into your head and you just kind of run with it. And that I guess really that's how it should be. But when it comes to that kind of work, because now this is one thing that I've really struck me when I looked at your images when I was doing your promo. Obviously, you're a working photographer, working retoucher. You know, you get clients and stuff like that. Now, when it comes to promoting yourself, you know, thinking back to when kind of first got into this whole industry, you're always encouraged to have, you know, portfolios that have got a very much a similar kind of image or similar kind of look to them. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
definite categories of things so that people, when they are looking to hire you, they can see what you kind of do. Now, obviously, you don't. Yours isn't like that. Although it's beautiful work, it is kind of very varied. How does that impact, or do you find it has a positive impact maybe when it comes to you getting clients? Or I mean, do you still now look for clients, or have you kind of changed how you're working? There's a lot to
Yeah,
answer there, but you know.
I know, and it's really weird actually. Yeah, I have a very fleeting and varied interest in stuff. But as you said in the beginning on the comment you got from the American guy, I forgot his name, sorry.
Hmm.
Um, I treat every picture as a portrait, or the way you treat a portrait.
Hmm.
Um, in basic. So if I take a picture of a flower, I'll treat it as a portrait. If I take a picture of a portrait, I'll treat it as a portrait or a landscape, or I don't know, maybe a car. I never photographed a car, I think, or
Hmm.
street photography. I really love street photography. I'm just too scared to go out and do street photography, but I really love
Hmm.
it. So if I
Yeah.
do, I treat those pictures as a portrait. So I'll treat them with respect and as a singular image, which needs to look amazing to me. And if I think it's amazing, I'll put it out there for everyone else to see. Look, I made something cool. I think it's cool. I don't know if you think it's cool, but I don't care. It's there. Uh,
The reason I ask you this though is because, you know, sometimes people might say, "Oh no, you've got to have something that." Depending on what kind of clients you want to get, you've got to get images that look that particular way, and that will draw them in. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I know when we were speaking yesterday, when we had a bit of a Zoom and a bit of a chat about things and what have you, you were saying about how recently a client literally just came in because they saw some stuff that you'd done, and that has led to some really, I mean, really, really good client and some really, really good work. So do you want to? These are the images we're talking about here, and this I'll bring them up. This stuff here,
yeah,
obviously, this is commercial work. This is for a TV series or something like that. Can you
it
tell us a
is.
little bit about this and how that client came about? Because obviously, this was something that you didn't go hunting for; it just kind of happened.
No, I'm terrible at promoting myself and putting myself out there commercially. So last year, at the end of last year, I decided to like, okay, I'm gonna stop doing the commercial work I did do, like the eventual portrait of a person or some design work and stuff. I didn't like it. I just
Hmm.
wanted to make my images again and just do that full time. So I said, okay, no more commercial work in that field. I'll just do my Photoshop stuff and maybe do some workshops and stuff. A few days later, this um, broadcasting company uh, approached me to like, do you have like availability of the studio on the 2nd of January? I was like, yeah, sure, we have. Go along, why not? It was a haste. Yeah, they needed it quickly. So we were there. I was there. Yvette was there, and I have my work scattered around the studio as we all have, um, and they really liked it. And so the guy says to Yvette, like, "Who makes this?" Yeah, the one who's sitting over there. I was just working behind my computer, just letting the client do its stuff. So he comes to me. He's like, "I really like that stuff." He saw a few of those pictures that are in the slideshow as well. He said,
Yeah.
"Do you do that commercially?" And I was like, I could, I guess.
All
So let's.
depends.
Well, it didn't really depend. But yeah, sure, that makes a lot of sense as well. But it was more like I probably could. Let's try that out. So a week later, I was there. I was at the company. They showed me around, and a week later, I had my first project. And from there on, they have been continuously adding me to new projects, like this one. This I just finished this one, and yeah, this has been all over Holland. It's been all over. It has been in cinemas, on bus stops, on posters, on video walls everywhere. And I was
Hmm.
like, I made that. How cool is that? It's not my work. It's a collaborative work because it's not
Right.
my idea. It's the idea of the production company. They have the concepts are theirs, and the photography is theirs, and I just put everything together, and I know how to put it together. And they specifically chose me for my style, so I must be doing something good.
How does it feel when you're given somebody else's images to work on? Then does that kind of like does it go against the grain? Does it, you don't mind it or what?
No, no problem. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm I like people, but I'm not really good with people. So imagine the idea that I have to go to a student. Well, I wouldn't mind, but it
Mm.
would really put me in an anxious spot.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Having to photograph those people and then having to make them look good as well. From start to finish, to do this project from start to finish, that would be very anxious for me.
Hmm.
Um, so no, I'm happy somebody else can do the photography. And on the last project we just finished, I made the whole set. I made the whole idea how it needed to look. So they set up the lighting and they did the photography. I was there on set, and
Mm.
I made a mock-up scene where we could the photographs were taken, put on my laptop, and I could put them in there, and it was like, okay, this looks good. Um, so that works.
Hmm.
So I don't really mind. I mean, the image is the starting point.
You know, you've mentioned there, you mentioned it a couple of times now, actually, about anxiety and kind of like, you like people, but you kind of don't feel that you're very, I don't know, is confident the word? You kind of, if there was a group of people, you'd rather kind of be on the sidelines as opposed to be the center of attention, I guess is what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I'll always be a fly on the wall, definitely.
Now, now on that then, before we take a quick break, because I told you it'd go quick. Look, 44 minutes
Oh
already.
my gosh,
Before I
really?
know, do you know what I mean? See what I mean? Before we go for a quick break, on the subject of anxiety, it's interesting then because recently you've had an exhibition. In
Hmm.
fact, I think have you had more than one? But I know I've been seeing on social media. I haven't got any pictures of this, so maybe if you can, I don't know if you've got something available, you could quickly show like a background scene of you at the exhibition, maybe off your social. If you let me know if you find one of those on your Facebook or something like that. But on that matter, when you're somebody who says you get anxious and you'd rather be on the sidelines as opposed to be the center of attention. What makes you want to do an exhibition? And this is similar because I asked this of my friend Nigel Thomas, who's in the audience as well. He had an exhibition and he too, goes through that kind of anxiety and what have you. So I asked him, so I'm asking you, what made you want to do an exhibition?
I have a difficult time saying no, and
Okay.
mainly that. And usually I'll just jump in like, oh yeah, that's an exciting idea. Let's do that.
Hmm.
The same goes with this live show. I was like, oh yeah, sure, let's do that. And when you come closer to the moment that something is happening, it's like, oh, what the hell did I just agree to?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
you go from there. Um, but yeah, it's between my ears. It's definitely between my ears. And I've learned to deal with it because it's also fun. I mean, I'm having an exhibition. I'm having sales, which is
It's
also
brilliant. Yeah.
brilliant. It's like, oh, cool. Somebody
Yeah.
likes my stuff. Somebody pays for it. So
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
keeps you going. And of course, if people tell you like we love your work, it's always a good endorphin in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Here, so yeah,
Totally get that. All
yeah.
right. Well, I'll tell you what. Then I'm going to give you a bit of a task. I'm going to give you an assignment. We'll have a quick break, and it'll be about a minute and a half, I think,
Uh-huh.
just so that we can have a bit of a slurp and give ourselves a bit of a break. But in that break, if you can find just a behind the scenes picture that I've seen on social media, like on your Facebook. So just so I can show that when we come back in, because I know obviously you're going to share your screen because you're going to give us an insight into some things that you do within Photoshop and a plugin.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. But before we do that, just show us that one picture. If you can find it. If you can't,
Behind the
I'll
scenes
shortcut.
of what?
Behind the scenes of the exhibition. I know on Facebook recently you've posted pictures about your exhibition.
Oh
Just
yeah,
have you
sure.
got a picture that you could just quickly show people? But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, if you found it, fantastic. But I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to show us within Photoshop and the plugin. All right.
Yes.
But I'll mute you now, and we're gonna we'll have a quick break. I'll come back to you in a moment. All right.
Yeah, sure. No problem. See you in a bit.
Alrighty. So yeah, Roderique he's gonna give us a look into Photoshop. I asked him, would he mind sharing maybe 3 things ish, something like that, showing what he does in Photoshop and also the Boris Effects, the optics plugin, which I mentioned that I use and have been using more and more since I've been getting back into the compositing since Renee twisted my arm to do it. Great timing though. I'm loving the plugin. So Roderick's going to show us that, but let's just have a very quick break. Time is racing by yet again. I'll play a quick ad. We'll come back. hopefully Roderique has found that picture, and then he's going to show us the retouching. So be back with you. Should be in about a minute and a bit, maybe something like that. All right, so admittedly, that was longer than a minute. All right, I grant you that. I was tempted to fade it out then because I didn't want to lose too much time with Roderique, but here he is. Right, did you find a picture? Shall I share your screen?
Yeah, you can share my screen. I've got a picture.
Well, that's my screen. Hold on. That is your website. For those who don't know, that's his website. Let me share his screen. There we go.
Yeah, this is straight to my Facebook page. I didn't take these pictures because usually I'm not in them. But this is at the opening of the exhibition, my first flower exhibition, actually.
Wow. Okay.
It's a small venue, but yeah, I'm really happy to be there.
Cool. That's brilliant that you've had the exhibitions. I mean, I didn't even know it was purely concentrated on the flower photos that you've done. So that's I thought it was just going to be all of your stuff, but no, I love that. That's really cool, and I can see why people would be buying those. That's artwork for going on the walls. So.
Definitely.
Fair play to you, mate. Good on you. Good on you. All right. Well, listen, you're going to show us. I'm sitting back. I've got my notepad. I've got my pen ready. Just want to see what it is that you do. I'm intrigued now. I have no idea what you're going to show us. But when you're ready, I'll share your screen and you can give us an insight into just some of your process.
Yes, sure. Let me see if I have everything working. My pad is working. Yeah.
I'll dive over to your screen now then, mate, okay? And we can see you at the moment in the bottom left, and I'll kind of move it out of the way as and when.
Yeah, I can see it as well. So, yeah, I created this image for Renee as well for Boris Effects for the Halloween contest they put up last month.
Yeah.
She asked me to create something, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll make something. And I was like, what am I going to create? So I ended up in my studio doing like crazy stuff with myself. And I don't mind putting this out. So I have this image, a weird one, spontaneous, like everything that happens. And the idea was to create something of a creature with I don't know, when I made it, I was like, maybe I should replace my head with a skull or have my...
As you do. Yeah.
Melted off, like, yeah, that's the way my brain works. So I created this skull in 3D and in Blender. And just angled it right. And then I added some blood, I think, and then I added some more skin back in. So this is the base image. This is my process. Usually I'll do some compositing. I'll add in different elements. I'll mask a lot of stuff. And this is the image that I've been, um, which I consider finished. Like this is good, but it's still in the same realm as I took the picture. It's still the same lighting, still the same look and
Yeah,
feel. It's still too clean for my taste. So
yeah. Okay.
that's the moment when I say, okay, now I need to start grading. Now I need to start giving it mood, like
Hmm.
I call it. So what I'll do, I'll usually make a stamp visible layer.
Hmm.
So I'll stamp everything from top down. So I'll have this layer. If I turn this one off, this is everything on one layer. And what you can do from there, you can go to your filters and you can go to Boris effects and do your stuff. The problem is if you do that, and you say apply in Boris effects or in any other plugin, that's it. The pixels are burnt in there and you can't change anything. So what I'll do, and this is a really good tip if you like to work non-destructive, convert that layer to a smart object.
Right.
Um, it doesn't do anything. If you double click it, it'll just open this image. But what I'll do, if you go to Boris Effects Optics or any other, um, this is opening on my other screen. Let me get that back. Whoop. Just a sec. Here it is. Sit there. And it has my, oh, that is weird. The pop-up says, do you want something? But it's not, oh, there it is. Sorry about that.
This is the wonder of having multiple screens, mate. I feel
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
pain.
it
I
is.
feel.
There's this one small pop-up that comes up that says, do you want to apply the previous filters? And
That's
it's like,
right.
yo,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but it was on my other screen somewhere buried between all the windows, whatever. So this is the interface of Boris Effects, and you should really try it out because it's so amazing. Um, and one thing I want to show you is the masking you have in here. There's a lot of filters in there. You can get lost for ages in here, which is amazing. I like to have a lot of options. But one thing I want to show you is um, the masking and what I'll do with it. Because you can use gobos.
Hmm.
A simple one like this one is blinds. There's windows, there's smoke, there's so many options. I'll just go with something we can all see. Doesn't really have to fit with this, but this looks cool. And I can change it, I can twist it, rotate it. But the problem is it's an overlay. It's always over everything. Let me just change it a bit like this. So basically, say I want this one. And it's over the subject. It's over the whole image. But what I found out, they have this amazing masking option in here, which is called Easy Mask. And you know, masking is difficult for everyone. I'm
Hmm.
still having issues with masking, especially hair and stuff. And this one has some transparency as well. I'm happy I don't have any hair, so that's easy for me to edit. But
Yeah,
here
you
we go.
picked an easy one.
I picked an easy one. Yeah, definitely. I can go hours with just talking about masking. But with the Easy Mask, what you can do, you have a few options here. If I start drawing like this, basically what I'm saying to Boris Effects is keep everything that is green or within the vicinity of green. So something like this, and something like that, and something like that, and something like that. That's it. Then I'll say delete everything that's in red or approximately to red. And
And
you
when you
don't have to.
say when you say keep and delete, you're basically saying on the mask to show what it is and don't show what it
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah. And usually you would say I would want the green to be the model and the red to be the background, but I
Yeah.
want the effect to be on the background instead of on the model. I'm calling myself a model. How cool is that? So once I'm done with this, and this is taking you like 2 minutes, and it's adjustable later on, so no worries about that. I'll just generate a mask, and what it'll
Yeah.
do, it'll just mask everything out. And if
It's
you
so
look at
cool that you can do that without going really like. I mean, look what it's created there. Look at that.
look what it's done. I mean, it's going right into the details, right here, transparency and everything.
Yeah.
And it won't be 100%. There's a bit of this here and this there. You can easily go back and just select the red brush and go here, go there, if there's some issues. But usually, it doesn't need that much of a precision. Oh, that's what tattoos do. Okay. Just regenerate it, and it'll grow tighter. You see, it takes in
It's
that.
interesting the way that you're using it there, because I see this is because I'm newer to using Boris effects. I would have gone the green on the person, the red on the background, and then just inverted it. But I'm thinking, what a numpty? Why didn't I do it that way?
Well, I've done this a few times because I also did that in the beginning. But now I'm used to it. It's like, oh yeah, and I want the background to be shown, so that's what I'm showing. And now you still have like, you can just still change everything.
That's clever, yeah.
And that's so clever of this. And then you can go like make a new layer, and then I'll go into, I won't do a full edit, but I'll show you a few things which I really love. No, not flashing, film effects. Now this gets me lost because there's so many film effects you can see here, and everyone has a different mood, and I can never choose the right one. It's like, oh, I like
that
this
blue
mood.
one's
I like
nice.
this
Yeah.
mood. I like this mood. Oh no, this one doesn't show that much, and you can just go on and on and on. But every mood tells a different story or has a different feeling, and I'm working towards feeling. I'm not working towards visibility or that it needs to be like everything needs to be shown or everything. The whole image needs to convey like a feeling to myself. And if I'm satisfied with it, that's the one I'm sticking to. I like this one. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll
that's
have,
good.
yeah, maybe I could work on some highlights, but that's the magic of non-destructiveness. And another thing in Boris Effects, which I really like, is if you go to File and Save Setup, you can save this. I mean, these are two layers. I can easily recreate them, but I don't know. Grime, that's what I wanted to call it. I already called it. So I'll save this whole setup the way it is. And if I say apply, I'm going to show two things together. Do we still have time?
Yeah, I like that colour. That's a nice tone on that, isn't it?
Yeah. So what I told you earlier, the smart object we had, I have it still here. So now if I double click on the optics, which is down here on the smart object, I get all my edits back and I can adjust things. So this way you can keep going back and forth and adjust. And this really works if you're doing client work, and people always want something different. And the other thing, like I said, I just saved my setup. If I go to take to another image, which has a totally different style, I'll go back to Boris Effects. And it'll probably open in my different window. No. Cool. I don't want to apply the previous filters. No. Actually, I do, but maybe I don't. I can go to my recent setups and get the same setup back.
Okay.
The only thing I need to change is the mask. But that's as easy as pie.
Very cool. All right. Okay. I'm getting a cheeky free lesson in Boris Effects here, and
Yes,
I've just
you
seen
can.
that, and I've just seen that Renee posted as well, saying, "Why has that gone? That's gone really small there, isn't it? Let's move that there, and let's move. It's on the fly. Can I make that bigger? Yeah, I can. There we go. So Renee's put you can save favorites by hitting the star. There we go.
I know,
Cool.
but they're all my favorite. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
so you can end up with loads.
I can save this one as a save favorite, and I can save this one as a favorite, but it depends on the image which one is my favorite. But yeah, I know. I have a favorite folder here which isn't really populated because it's always something different I'm using.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many.
It's a really cool plugin. I mean, we're talking about this. I'll come back to it, me and you at the moment.
Yes.
We were talking about this yesterday, and the fact that you can click on one thing, then click again, and click. You keep going down and down. It's like, oh my god, how much stuff is there? Do you know, on the topic of plugins? Do you? I mean, when you went to the filter menu there, I didn't quite see how many different things in there. do you have a lot of plugins, or is it just kind of generally you like, I love this one for doing the effects because they suit the way I work. So that's all I have for creating effects. But do you have other plugins for other things like, I don't know, Topaz Gigapixel, let's say, for enlarging images and whatever? What plugins are your go-tos?
I have them all, or at least I'll try them all. I I'm a software geek as well. Every software has a little magic thing they're selling, so I need
Mm-hmm.
to figure it out. I need to test it out. Um, but yeah, Boris FX is one of my main ones at the moment. I do use Nick Tools as well for a few of the effects they have. I also have the Retouch for Me plugins, which really help me retouch images of portraits really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing.
And I
Um,
got to ask you then as well, because
hmm,
this is always something that you ask everybody nowadays, especially people like you who are really into the retouching side of things. What is your feeling about, because you're a big Photoshop user, what's your feelings about AI? And I'm not talking about, DALL-E and Midjourney. I'm talking about AI that's built into within Photoshop and Lightroom. What's your take on it? What's your feelings on it?
um, it depends. I mean, there's really some good AI tools in Lightroom, especially the masking and stuff, which is amazing,
Yeah.
which I really like. In Photoshop, I don't know. I haven't really gotten anything useful out of the generative fill um, at all. Nothing that I can use actually. So that's my take on it. I'm very very picky on that on
Hmm.
stock. I do like the remove tool. It really helps me remove so many things quickly. I do like the masking, the select subject tools, which are AI as
Hmm.
well,
Hmm.
which are amazing, which saves me a lot of time as well. But as image generator, no, I'm not really a big fan. But I'm a bit Mid-Journey user, so I'm
Oh,
more
right.
of
Okay. I mean,
I
the,
do.
the reason I ask you is because you said that obviously it's a big topic these days, and when me being away this past week at Adobe, AI has definitely been one of the conversations and things we're talking about, looking at how it's going to be integrated more and more. But it was interesting because I kind of shared my new workflow with the composite, and I've shared this recently with the new Viking pitch that I did, which is the first composite I've done for a while, and it was how I'm now using it because I don't intend to use AI to create full images.
No.
But what I do, I'm using it for small bits. Like
Yeah.
ordinarily, and you'll know this from when you're doing your compositing, that when you have a person that you've maybe photographed in the studio with the background, the first job is cutting them out and trying to get, the hair as good as you possibly can, all those flyaway fine hairs. And that used to, I always liked the challenge of doing it, but I wanted to get on with the creative stuff. So my new workflow for 2024 going into 25 is that I'll do a cutout of the person, the model, but I won't really touch the hair. It'll be a very basic, angular cutout of the hair. I'll do all my retouching, all the effects and all that kind of stuff that I love to do, the creative stuff. And then the very last thing I do is that I make a selection of where the hair would be. And then I get the AI to generate it and then I upscale it. And it's just like, oh my God, that just works so well. Do you know what I mean? Like I typed in on the Viking one, I put plaited black hair blowing in the wind and a few variations of it, and it just worked. And I think the time that saved me. That's why I like AI, because it's helping me deal with those time-consuming, tedious tasks. I certainly don't intend it to deal with a huge part of the picture. But the other side of what I've been doing it with is to create concepts. So if I've got an idea in my head, I'll go to that new generative workspace that's in the beta version of Photoshop, and I'll type in what I want it to be, my idea in my head, and it'll present me with a variety of different images. Not that I'm going to then say were mine, but just to, because I'm really bad at drawing as well, mate. If I'm honest, I'm really bad at drawing. So it's kind of like my way of me getting down on paper what it is I want to create. So I'm finding it really useful like that. So I just wanted to get your take on it. That was all. So.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, I'm a
Mhm.
big fan of AI, but I'm still figuring out where its place is. Um, I just want AI to go through my archive and just clean up everything there.
Yeah.
That's basically what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And the rest is, well, we're creative, so we'll find a way to use it creatively in any way possible.
Yeah. But what you say there about clean up your archive, watch this space, because it was one of the things that was talked about, a utility that could do that. So hey, who knows?
I'll probably use it.
Renee's just put a little comment at the end here that says it works great so long as you aren't a person who likes to enter competitions. Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because obviously camera clubs and what have you like that, and competitions are saying that you can't enter images that don't have pixels that come from your image or whatever. But interesting topic there. Maybe a topic for a different live broadcast, but it ain't going anywhere. AI is going nowhere, and I think my own opinion is, and this is going off on tangent, that if camera clubs don't embrace it, there's a danger that they could be stuck in the mud and not progress. But that's controversial. Listen, we're almost at 8:10, so we've been UK time, so we've been going for an hour and 8 minutes. I want to finish off now, mate, with something I didn't prime you on, but just give us. What if you had somebody who was just starting out, and wanted to do what you do? Think about the things that you do day to day with the kind of work that you do. What would be, I don't know, if there are 3 tips or whatever, but what would be your advice that you would give somebody who's maybe just starting out and says, Roderique, I want to do what you do? What would be the best advice you'd give them? What's the thing that one thing that you've maybe really learned? Maybe one mistake that you made that you'd have tell them to avoid doing, or what? What would you say to them?
They're all happy little accidents to go. So what I would say is just put in your hours. Definitely put in your hours. Just go for it and put it all in. Every waking hour you're not behind your computer, you're looking around. I like to watch everything. I like to sit on the bus stop and just watch the light go by, see what happens, and then wonder why, and then wonder, how would that work in my lens? How would that work on an image? How would that translate to something completely different? Be curious, and do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else, because you'll end up being unhappy anyways if you do that. Make the images you want to make.
I think that's pretty solid advice. I think, probably even just finishing on that one, just make the images that you want to make and put the time in. What more could you say? So, right, okay. Listen, I'm not going to keep up too much more of your time, because I appreciate you've given us, and you're an hour ahead of us as well, so it is later for you. So, before we go, where would you say is the best place, apart from, let's just bring this over here, because I know some people have already been taking a look at it, apart from your website, which is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. There's obviously a Flickr. Where else would you suggest that people go to keep up with what you're doing on a with your creative stuff?
Wherever. My website needs rework. It's got some old work, but I still use Instagram a lot, where you put a lot of images. I use Facebook. I know I'm old. Threads. Threads is still a thing I'm figuring out. I even have images on Vero, which I'm not really working on.
Yeah, that's a weird one, that Vero, isn't it? It's a weird one.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I still have this one. It's usually, oh yeah,
yeah.
On there, and it still lives. I'm still putting out things on Flickr, but not continuously. I'm on Blue Sky now. Everyone's on Blue Sky, so I'm trying that one out. Anywhere you can find the handle Dracorubio, you'll find me.
You're everywhere. You are everywhere.
Yeah, as is my mind.
I love what you said about Facebook. I'm old, but I'm on Facebook. Oh, God. Dear me. All right, well, listen, like I said to you, don't disappear, when I kind of close this down. But, mate, thank you so much for giving us your time and an insight and a free lesson in Boris FX. It's fascinating. I love what you do. I love the fact that you're so honest about what you do, with saying there's no real kind of structure. A lot of the work is just very spontaneous. So I think that's encouraging for people to hear as well, whereas sometimes I think we need to have this rigid structure. Sometimes, like you say, just let it go and just run with it. Yep. And you never know what you're going to create, I suppose.
Be Bob Ross.
Bob, do you know what I was going to say, Bob Ross? But there was a fear then that you would say, God, you're old. As in me. Do you know what I mean? There you go.
Watched them all. I watched them all.
All right. Well, I'll join you afterwards for a quick chat. But from me, and I mean the comments coming in here, look, they're all some great comments. Those comments will still be there when the recording's coming in. But got some lovely comments coming in. Nice one, chaps. Thank you. This was great. So,
Thank you,
and Judy has put here, thank you, Dracorubio, for your time, and Glyn for introducing us to him. There you go.
Cool.
There you go. I think by the sounds of it, you're going to have a few more followers after today.
Awesome. I'll see you around.
All right. Well, mate, I'll catch you in the virtual green room in a few moments. All right, mate. Nice one. Yep, I'll see you soon. All right. See you in a moment.
Bye, everyone.
Alrighty. Wow. How good was that? Really varied work. I love the variety in the work there. And like I said just then, I love the fact that he's just so honest. You know, there's just like, no, I do what pleases me and I just kind of go with it. It's all well and good, isn't it? Having like an idea of, and we have to do this every now and again, like I'm going to do this picture and this is what I want it to look like at the end. But sometimes just to have that complete freedom and just kind of run with it. I think that's a pretty damn good exercise to kind of do every now and again, certainly. As is the one about putting your own slideshow together of your own images with music. Give it a go. Give it a go sometime. But I'm going to play Roderique's promo before I finish. But just as a wrap up again, just to remind you, I'm not going to go through all of the admin there. I will just do two things. The first one is to say, don't forget to subscribe. Like and subscribe and click the bell. All right, that's what I think they say, isn't it? That's that one there. And the other one is to let you know that I am back next week. I think we should have a good run of some guests coming up now, but I am really excited about this one. Not spoken to my friend Vincent Versace for quite a while, but we were chatting in the week before I went away to San Francisco, and he's going to join us. So Vincent Versace, I haven't done his announcement graphic just yet. He's in Cuba. He gets back today. But he is around for next week and he said he'd love to join us. You will love Vincent. He is a very straight talking guy. He's got a lot to talk about, but his black and white work is just off the scale. Absolutely stunning work. So I'm really looking forward to getting Vincent in and just telling it like it is, as I'm sure he will. But there you go. We're back. We're up and running again after a couple of weeks back. I don't think I've got jet lag. We're good. Looking forward to the week ahead, and cracking on with these now for a few more weeks in a row. But thank you for joining me. It's great to see the chat room being so busy. Always nice to see that. Roderique's there. He's still there. He's put thanks everyone. Let's just post that. There you go. Thanks everyone. Oh, doesn't look good there. I don't like it there. Put it there. There we go. Right. I will see you same time, same place, 7 p.m. UK next Sunday for Vincent Versace. But I'm going to close this down by playing Roderique's promo again. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week.